I just feel like I'm falling apart inside, so. Anyway. Merry meet and welcome. So if you saw the title of the video, you probably know why we're starting this more unorthodox way, but I wanted to warn you because I'll have it timestamped where we talk about the vegan lox, or maybe I'll just put it right up front, and then afterwards we'll just kind of be like, we try to make bagels. So yeah, but we're essentially just here to give you that little bit disclaimer about why this video is different, and we're still posting it because I've never done a vegan lox before, and I used to love salmon lox. It's my favorite kind of way to dress your bagel, is to do the everything bagel and all of it. So we're gonna go ahead and do it. We're not doing quite her savory bagels because we don't have cucumber or sprouts, but those are really nice. I enjoy them. I just didn't want to pay for them. Whereas that the sprouts were only organic and super expensive, and I don't know, maybe that will get me something, but whatever. So I'm trying to remember if you do tomatoes or onions first, and I feel like tomatoes is the more natural course to do. If you don't like, a lot of people do 2 tomatoes. I know myself, and I know 1 tomato is going to be fine on each side, but if you want like nice layering, there you go. And then we do some onion, which I don't like to waste any onion, so I mean technically I could put this in the stock, but I don't mind small bites of onion. After all, that's what our teeth are going to do, right? Anyways, now I have more room on here. Then we have our capers, a must. I mean, if you like them, of course. Ooh, pungent. Yeah, I haven't tried this salmon lox at all, and honestly, it's supposed to be like overnight and ready to go, but things just like kind of got away from me. I mean, as you'll see with making the bagels. So I have like, yeah, I was like, okay, I have to take a step back, and then this was the first I could get to the grocery store. So I'm very excited though. Maybe I'm putting too much of my hopes and dreams into this. Okay, here we go. I thought they had absorbed more of the liquid, so I'm very glad to see that that wasn't the case, because I was like, no, it's going bad. They definitely still look like carrots. I'm not gonna say they don't. But I mean, worst case scenario, it tastes like a smoked carrot, and it's a true savory bagel. But it smells, actually, the more I'm like working with it right now, it smells like salmon, like smoked salmon to be exact. So I'm very excited. I have no idea how much to put, because like I mean, I feel like you would be greedy with salmon, but do you want to be greedy with a salmon replacement? I don't know. So we'll take a bite, and then I always can add more later. But let's go ahead. I'm trying to make sure I get a good bite that has a little bit of everything in it. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention, I did put chives on top of the cream cheese. So, and of course it's vegan, we all know this, right? The cream cheese. I wanted to say though, in her recipe, she says to mix the chives with the cream cheese. You can do that if you want to be fancy, but if you're already like, if you aren't going to save the cream cheese for later and it's just for like a 1 bagel like I'm doing right now, there's no reason to do it. So especially if you have your own herb garden, just do it like as you go. But anyways, let's go ahead, taste test this, and I'll let you know how it goes. Merry meet again. So I like it. I do think having like I don't think this alone tastes like a salmon lox, so I definitely was right not to taste it on its own. Trust those feelings. And yeah, but I do think they come together really well to actually give the overall impression. Is it the same as fatty salmon? No. Does it give you a sense of what you were missing? Yes. And I think that's all we can really ask for when we're trying to replace things, instead of just expanding our horizons. So with that, I'll see you guys in the next one. I am going to show you one more that I really enjoy how to make it, versus kind of how she talks about, versus her suggestion. I'm going to show you my suggestion for our sweet bagel. So this has been the savory. See you soon. Merry meet. So today we're just doing this my rendition of the sweet bagel, but I'm actually really just telling you more because I just wasn't in a place to go buy mint and pistachios. More on that in just a second. So this will be linked though below. This is in her original recipe. This is the opposite of man jam when Monica is trying to get over Richard. So it's blackberry mint. Ironic because we don't have mint, so even better if you don't have mint but you have pistachios. Anyways, we'll get into it. So this will be linked below, but this is our blackberry jam. Okay, so we have our cream cheese. I do love more cream cheese in this, but like I'm trying, I only have so much because I love cream cheese. So I'm trying to have enough to make another this salmon lox bagel, which this is the day after. It was so good, and I did end up putting a little bit more of those carrots on there. Very good, very good. But yeah, so anyways, you have your jam and your bagel. So you do your bagel, your cream cheese, and then you do your jam on top of that, and then on top of that you can cut up some mint. And anytime you're cutting up herbs, if you roll it into a little bundle and then cut that is a much easier time. And also chop up or already have chopped up pistachios, and that's it. You just put all that, layer it all on top. It is so good. Gives you a little bit of protein, some good fat, because what a lot of people don't realize is it's good to eat fat in the morning so that you don't get hungry midday. So like if you notice, you're like, wow, I had a big breakfast, it was so much protein and like a lot of carbs, like it's good to have that, but that's why having a little bit of fat will like take it that extra distance. But that is pretty much it. I already know this is good because I've already had these kind of recipes. She does say to mix in the jam with the cream cheese, so that is also an option if you want to spread that after, but same kind of logic as mixing the chives with the cream cheese. Like if you're using it for one bagel, like does it really make that big of a difference? No. So anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and eat this. Thank you for being here, and maybe enjoy the chaoticness of not being able to make bagels. That I'll show now. If not, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye. Merry meet and welcome. Today we're going to be doing the morning tears bagels, and we'll be doing the bagel varieties as well. Ignore this. But so there's essentially a spice or herb bagel, so I'm gonna be trying to recreate everything bagels. We have a jalapeno and cheese bagel, exactly what it sounds like. And then we have loaded savory bagels, which is essentially a salmon lox bagel. And so I'm going to hopefully be using one of the everything bagels and making some vegan salmon to go for that. And then we have sweet bagels, which this one, she has it to combine the cream cheese and jam. We're not going to do that, but anyways, we'll go into that more later. Let's go ahead and get started with making our bagels though. Merry meet again, getting started with our yeast mixture. We have some water here, and we have our yeast packets. So something that I need to stop doing is being like, oh yeah, one yeast packet is like all you need for whatever you're baking. Not the case. So here's obviously 3 yeast packets. For this particular one, I technically should have gotten another of this, but luckily this is at least half. So instead of getting all 12 bagels, we'll get 6. And then she says to mix it until it doubles up in frothiness. So the sugar's in there so that the yeast will eat it. See, that's always my question. If we recognize the fact that yeast, like how is, I don't know. Like people can't say like being vegan or plant-based means that you don't eat things that breathe, because like plants breathe. Yeast literally eats. But it says to whisk for a couple minutes until the frothiness doubles, which essentially will show us that the yeast is activated. But you will be able to tell, so we're not going to get the blooming because of the fact that we're going for frothiness. But yeah, that's it. Just mixing up our yeast. I didn't follow her recipe for the water because I didn't understand what she was saying in it, because then she says 1 1/4 cup divided, but this needed 3/4. So, and that's for half. So it would have needed 1.5 cups of water, which is more than the recipe calls for altogether. So I just decided to go based off of what the yeast packet needs, because that's essentially what it needed. Same thing with the sugar, just followed what the yeast packet needed versus anything. So I definitely feel like it has doubled up in froth. We've been doing this for at least a minute. And then as we set it off to the side, it'll continue to develop. But yeah, so you can kind of tell that it definitely added a little bit more frothiness. And that's when you're whisking, you are adding air into it. So that's another good reason to have it in a bowl kind of like this, because the more that your whisk or your fork is under the liquid, the less air that's going to get incorporated into it. Yep. What else was I gonna say? Yeah, okay, that's it. That's it. I just followed the yeast recipe as it said on the packet instead. And then for her water portion, she does clarify that to add an additional 1 cup. Well, she doesn't say additional. It's weird how she phrases it. Anyways, you know, some credit to her. She got this published. It wasn't that expensive. So, you know, maybe I shouldn't be expecting like perfectionism from these recipes, but there certainly is a lot, like, because it's not common sense. Cooking and baking is not common sense. You wouldn't be like, oh yeah, that makes sense if you're just following this recipe for the thing. So I don't know, we'll see what happens, right? I'm gonna stop whisking and go grab the other ingredients. All right, so here we go. So almost got myself. This is supposed to only be 1/2 cup, because we're ending up needing to do half. So it says to combine our yeast mixture, which this is something where I'm like, couldn't I combine it in this bowl? I'm actually gonna do that because I'm gonna need to drop this out anyway, and I need another bowl that's well oiled. So anyway, so we're gonna combine with this yeast. We're gonna add the water. We're going to add the bread flour. I have no idea if this is high protein, by the way. I don't know if that's just how bread flour comes. This is the only bread flour that I found at a store that has every type of flour, I felt. So I was like, if it's not this, we're gonna find out. And then we're using 1/2 of the brown sugar. So in this case, it's even, so technically 1/4 from the recipe. And then we have our salt. And we're gonna mix. And so if you do have a stand-in mixer, I think a lot of them nowadays come with a dough hook. It's great, and you can make this recipe with just a dough hook. Not all bread recipes I feel like can you make with just a dough hook on a like residential mixer, but yeah. So we're just gonna go, and we want this to get as much mixed as possible, and then we'll end up dumping it out. Since we have a non-porous surface, we don't necessarily need extra flour. Did I prepare some just in case? No. Do I have extra? Yeah, so that works. But yeah, so we might get lucky and we might be able to even mix it in this bowl, but let's just, because what a dough hook would do is essentially very similar to like how a spatula goes. So we'll see. I've never I just feel like I'm falling apart inside, so anyway. Okay, yeah, because I'm trying to replicate a dough hook without actually needing to knead, but it does say that you will essentially need to knead for, because it's just so sticky, but that you need to knead for like 20 minutes if you're doing it by hand, and if you're just using it in a stand mixer, it takes about 5 to 10 minutes. So yeah, yep. Okay, so it comes off easy on my hands, which is something. I just need to do it. Okay. Because there's not more bread. I don't know. I don't know. This is not giving. I'm gonna keep mixing it with this spatula. I think maybe I'll be able to develop at least a little bit more on here before I actually feel the need to dump it out, I guess. Worst case scenario, we YouTube how to make bagels. Because this is all she says. She doesn't clarify. It's like a one-step thing. Just cleaning up because I'm like, that's also because it's dissolved so easily. So I'm like, it's not like dough I'm used to, but it's because of that I'm like, what if it just gets all on my hands and doesn't ever want to come off? So okay, I'll show you guys if I end up needing it. Otherwise, I'm just gonna do this. Okay, we're gonna try this and we'll see what happens. I obviously put some on here because at this point it's just like still so sticky that I don't know how else to knead. So, and it sticks to me immediately every time. So I got all the extra flour that I have and here we go. She says that she's not actually ready yet. Let me get this flour a lot closer to me, and then obviously on top, because like I said, it's still so sticky. Worst case scenario, I add too much flour. Oh my god. Oh, I can't even pick it up. Sorry. I hate this. There's no way this is enough flour. There's no way. I am so mad. Because here's the thing. Maybe that's why. Maybe I did use too much water and it's just like, that's why I didn't tell you to use that exact amount. And it's like, you also didn't tell me what kind of yeast to use. This has been a giant mistake. I now can't grab more flour. I am getting so badly irritated. Awesome. This is awesome. I'm just gonna add all the flour in a moment here. If I could. Okay, so this may just end up being like a vegan salmon video instead, and being like, oh yeah, and here's why I'm never gonna make bagels from scratch, because there isn't a reason. I don't know anyone who's like, yeah, I love making bagels from scratch. I guess like making bread, sure. And I don't know, we're just gonna get a little bit mean right now. But in the recipe, it's like inactive time, 30 minutes. And then you go down, it's like set aside for 90 minutes. That literally means inactive for at least 90 minutes. So it's like, there was an editor, I don't know. I'm not in a good space. I'm just doing my best. And like, yeah, I'm just doing my best. And my best right now isn't that good. Our best changes from day to day is kind of the way I cope with that. But anyways, I'm trying to think because, yeah, there was more water. I wish she would explain some of her decisions and like be sure to follow this part because otherwise it'll be too much water. And I'm thinking that's just what has happened. Okay. We're getting to where it at least isn't as terrible as before, except we aren't at the same time. Okay, here we go. This is all I have. If this doesn't work, I'm quitting. Oh my gosh, and you guys will just see a bagel that I didn't make. Oh my god. My first thought when I said that was just like, literally, help me. Okay. Get the bits that are off that. Okay, so decent. Yeah. This isn't how you need, just to let you know. It's because there's, it keeps getting sticky, so there's not enough flour. There's just not enough flour. And if anyone is just like, just use regular flour to supplement. No. I don't want to keep doing something that I'm not sure will work out and will take me all day to get a result anyway and figure out if it was worth it or not. Because right now it just isn't worth it, and I feel really bad about wasting this, so I guess there's that. But no, this is it. Bye. This is the last thing that I'll say is, if you have a stand mixer with a dough hook, this probably would work. And maybe like with her things. But it is impossible to follow this recipe, is how I feel about it. Because the whole reason why I abandoned the understanding of the water is because it doesn't make sense. She just says divided, and that doesn't necessarily mean in half, because then she says with the additional 1 cup water. So does that mean it was supposed to be a 1/4 cup with all that yeast? Which for us would mean 1/8 or 2 tablespoons? I don't know. I really don't know. So if you guys try this, I'm sure you'll have more success than me, because you'll hopefully learn from my failures. But this really makes me sad. I already wasn't in a good place. So I'm just gonna go buy some everything bagels, and I'm trying to think what I'll use the jalapeno for. I don't know, probably tacos. Bye. Merry meet again. So as you can see, we're getting ready to do our vegan salmon with the recipe in the description, or the link I should say. And I'm actually very happy and proud of myself. So this is liquid smoke, and I thought I didn't have it, and then lo and behold, it just wasn't a place where I never would have put it. But if you my moods have been not good lately, but it is what it is, and I'm actually in a really good mood today. So this is something you want to do ahead of time. I'm doing it now, even though with like the bagels and whatnot, I won't be able to eat the vegan salmon tonight, but I will be able to enjoy it next time. So you guys will still get a review of that, but just know that this needs to be marinated for at least 12 hours. So I wanted to show you this setup because, you know, when we get into the pot and stuff, it's a lot harder to see what's going on. But essentially we're going to be adding our, what is that first one? Oh my gosh, my mind just went out of my head. Because this is water, this is liquid smoke, salt, soy sauce, lemon juice, rice vinegar. The first one is rice vinegar. So we're going to add all those, bring it to a boil before adding our carrot shreds. And then we have nori flakes and capers, which we'll put in our pickling jar. I don't know if this would classify as a pickling jar. I don't know what the difference is. Could I have Googled it? Yes, but instead of stressing myself out, I'm just using what I have, because this is what I have available. And I also didn't know how much liquid I would need, so this is probably a bigger jar than I need, so I might end up maybe using like reusing a salsa jar or something like that. But anyways, let's go ahead and get this bunch in the pot. All right, so I'm just mixing all of those ingredients that we just said in here, and it says to bring it to a boil for about 3 minutes. This pot, I don't have very many pots, but you guys know I like using this lip, touching it because it has not actually fully heated up yet. Otherwise, do not touch the side of your pots. But so bring that to a boil for 3 minutes before we add in our carrot shreds. And sorry. We're going to bring this to a boil, add our carrot shreds for 3 minutes. And that's just what we're going to do. But this is the only pot I have with a spout. So we're just going to use it. I also think that with how, that's one of the positives though I'm thinking, is it'll get to a boil faster. Because I really, you know, it did take me a minute to get here today. But yeah, the only other things that I wanted to share right now while we're waiting on this is, if you have not used liquid smoke before and are using it, please know that it in fact is a very concentrated smell. So if you are very sensitive to smells, especially that like hickory smoke smell, you're gonna want to prepare yourself for that. While preparing the ingredients, because it's been so long and I didn't even think I had it, so I was so excited. I opened it so fast and was pouring it, and it was a lot. I coughed because it was a lot. So definitely be aware of your limitations when it comes to that. But it is, I'm so glad I had it, because I thought it was gonna, I mean, we're trying to make vegan smoked salmon, to be perfectly honest. So I'm very excited about that. But anyways, we'll check in with you when we are finishing up our canning part. I think I'm gonna switch that jar. Merry meat again. So we have those things boiling, and we're gonna go ahead, add in our carrot shreds, and then we're gonna lower the heat a little bit so that it comes down to a simmer, and we're gonna simmer it with the lid on for 3 minutes. So slight clarifications, this is why we read our recipes. I frankly have been rereading this over and over, and sometimes that only goes so far in your mind. But yes, the other thing, we're going to go ahead and prepare our pickling jar. So let's look at that. Okay, so we have the capers and the nori flakes in here preparing for our liquid to come in here. And we'll see that pour soon. But I wanted to let you know I messed up and I totally forgot about the dill. I literally, I don't like dill that much. Despite like in my past, like loving ranch, and I know dill is like a key flavor, and I have like dill when it comes to salmon, so I was like, oh, I can do that, but I didn't want to buy a whole bunch of fresh dill that I knew I wasn't going to use. So I was like, oh, I think I have some dried at home. I don't. I do think it's essential, so definitely bite the bullet, get it dried if you're not sure, because I just hope it still comes through in the flavor. But I think for smoked salmon, like when it has that like mustardy dill sauce, it's so good. So that might be something, maybe adding mustard to it, but I'm not gonna experiment with that right now. We're just gonna fly and see how big of a deal, because I've never done this, so we'll see if it is a big deal or not. But anyways, we're almost done with our simmering and pouring it in here. If you want to avoid splashes, it's always best to try to get as much liquid first and to do a little bit more controlled easing in of the solids. I'm a little nervous that it's not enough liquid, but I followed the recipe. I probably could have added more water if I was that nervous. Oh my gosh. Just a few more stragglers. We're being very careful with our hot pot. I'm honestly so excited. Salmon lox, everything bagels were like my favorite, and that's what we're doing, you know? Okay, so I want that to be more submerged in liquid, but essentially we're gonna let this cool, because you never want to like cap anything that is immediately hot and then put it in the fridge, especially. So that's just a little bit food safety knowledge. I'm not gonna quote anything here, just look it up. But with that, I'm gonna go ahead, leave this off to the side, like I said, let it cool off, and then we place it in the fridge, and then you want it to marinate at least overnight. So typically overnight means like 8 hours. So if you're like, oh no, I forgot to do this and I have a brunch I'm doing, there is that. And then also my personal feelings are the more you let something marinate, the more it's going to be able to get those flavors and soak them in. So you probably could make this at any point, but yeah, I'm gonna leave it there, and I'll check in with you guys later when we are feasting upon our bagels. Have a good one. So I do want to make sure that it's covered by the marinade. I think that's the best I'm gonna get it. You know, I almost halved this because I was like, I got 2 large carrots, but I don't feel like they're as much as she's expecting. Nope, correct amount.